What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel, where in this video we will explore the potential ramifications of Anakin Skywalker's presence on the night Ben Solo fell to the dark side. Now, the obvious conclusion to make here is that a confrontation between Ben Solo and the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker would have prevented Ben's fall, and given the events that ultimately forced Ben Solo to the dark side, I do agree with this. I believe that an appearance from his grandfather at any given time on that day would have changed the course of everything going forward. But let's take a deeper dive into this alternative timeline to explain why exactly Anakin's presence would be such a huge thing for Ben, and also to evaluate the ramifications of this change down the road. So we begin this exploration just after Ben has learned the truth about his lineage. I have other videos explaining how and when all of this happened, so you guys can of course feel free to go check them out. But contrary to popular belief, Ben Solo did not learn he was the grandson of Darth Vader until he was 23 years old. He is made aware of this reality through a message released by some of his mother's political enemies, who are attempting to essentially tug at the cape of the beloved war general, Leia Organa. Ben is crushed by this revelation, not so much because of his relation to Darth Vader specifically, but because his family had kept that information from him for so long. It makes him feel as though all of these dark sensations that Palpatine had haunted him with throughout his life may actually be true. His mother does reach out to him and try to console her son as best as she can, but he is now emotionally broken, and it's going to take a whole lot more than a hologram to mend this open wound. And shortly after this, Ben awakens to Luke Skywalker, his Jedi Master, and his uncle whom he looked up to and admired for his entire life, with his lightsaber ignited, ready to strike him down. Ben brings the hut down on Luke, claims he killed his uncle, and so on and so forth. Palpatine sets the training temple on fire, Ben finds his way to Snoke, and the First Order ascends. We know the story. So, while Palpatine was the driving force behind Ben's fall to the dark side, and he may well have orchestrated all of these events, the primary factor that drives his turn on this night is this overwhelming sense of betrayal. His mother tries to support him later on, yes, but like I said, it's too late for that now. And from his perspective, Luke quite literally attempts to kill him out of fear for what he could become. His family has lied to him, deceived him, and kept the truth from him for over 2 decades because they feared his power and the eventual destiny that came with that. But this is what we have to understand. Ben Solo does not want to be evil. This is extremely clear. It's not even really debatable anymore. He's desperate to find a reason to do the right thing, but Luke's attack on his life pushes him over the edge. This encounter takes that choice away, and he now believes that turning to the dark side is indeed what he is meant to do. But this brings us back to the big topic of this video. What if Anakin spoke to Ben on this day? Regardless of when the conversation took place, whether it be right when he woke up that morning, just before he went to sleep, or even after the incident with Luke, we can assume that Anakin would offer a few important pieces of information. First, he would obviously introduce himself. Then, he would explain what happened in his past life, telling Ben about his dark sensations as he was growing up, about his mother's death, about Darth Sidious, about his eventual transition into Darth Vader, and finally, that he had been wrong, and that turning to darkness was never the right choice. He would offer his support to Ben. He would relate to his nephew in a way that nobody else could. He would assure him that he was on the right path as a Jedi, and maybe he would even reveal the truth about Palpatine's survival. And this conversation would completely change Ben's perception of everything that had taken place to that point. He would now see his grandfather for the hero that he once was. He would know the truth about Anakin Skywalker, and he would be given that loving support which he so desperately needed from his family at this time. Anakin's presence would mean the world to Ben, and I say this with no exaggeration intended. This interaction would have changed everything. The timing would only matter slightly. Even after Ben escapes his sleeping quarters and sees the Jedi Temple on fire, he still tries to save his fellow students. His heart is still in the right place. So the appearance of his grandfather would still be far more than enough to save Ben. There's no doubt in my mind about that. The more interesting approach to this question, in fact, is what sort of impact Anakin may have had years down the road. Suppose that during The Force Awakens, Ben still had never met his grandfather and still didn't know the truth about Darth Vader. And even if he did know part of it, the story was likely skewed considerably by Snoke. So what if Anakin came to Kylo in The Force Awakens? Let's say right in that scene where Ren is calling on Vader's mask to show him the power of the darkness. Now the conversation would largely be the same. Anakin would offer the same information we discussed before, and we all know that Kylo Ren is still a massively conflicted individual. But unlike the other scenario where Ben has yet to even turn to the dark side, Kylo Ren has now been serving Snoke for 6 years. He is committed to this side of the fight. It's going to take a whole lot more than this drop-in to completely change his heart. But with that in mind, I do think Anakin's visit in this moment would bring that light out just enough so that when Han Solo reaches out to Ben on the bridge just a short while later, the darkness of Kylo Ren would not prevail. Because we know that the presence of Han Solo alone was nearly enough to bring Ben back on its own. He struggled mightily with that decision, and then of course it absolutely destroyed him afterward. But if Anakin were to come to him before this moment where he does kill his father and stir up all this inner turmoil, Kylo would already be reconsidering everything. He'd already be questioning his purpose and his role in this fight, and so I do believe that it is far more likely than not that Ben would have then returned with Han. And then who knows what would have happened from there. The possibilities would be virtually limitless, but in my estimation, Ben Solo would indeed be redeemed. And with that being said, I think I will go ahead and wrap this video up here. So let me know what you guys think about all of these ideas in the comments section below. Please remember to drop a like on this video to support the channel, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and of course, may the Force be with you always.